Hi, I'm Joe Arlinghaus. Thanks for watching this video about Valor America. I am standing here on a hilltop in Colorado. I hope you can see the hills behind me. I am here to tell you a little bit more about what we are, how we came to be, and what makes us special. Let me first explain just who I am and how I started this work. You know, my own passion for election politics grows out of my pro-life passion. I've long been a conservative activist, at least in my heart, not so much in my work for many years. I did work 25 years ago for Pat Buchanan. I was active in his 1992 campaign. I had attended the University of Dallas just before that, where I studied political philosophy, and that devout Catholic university really shaped a lot of my thinking, both spiritually and politically. And that Pat Buchanan campaign was my first foray into election politics. And then I stepped aside for quite a long time. But in 2013 and 14, I was asked by Greg Abbott, the candidate for governor of Texas, who won. I was asked before he won to help him reach out to Hispanics. And we discussed how powerful in that particular race late-term abortion could be because his opponent was such a loud advocate of it. And we really believed that if we could discreetly talk to Hispanic Texans about that, they'd be turned off. In the course of that, I discovered a researcher who had copied Democratic methods, the very methods that created what they called the War on Women in 2012, in that messaging against Republicans to claim Republicans were engaging in a war on women. And we basically reversed the methodology. But what it comes down to is a targeting, being able to talk to the people you want to talk to and not to talk to the people you don't want to. Now, we did this for the life message, but it isn't exclusively useful for the life message. It can truly be used in many, many different ways. Anyway, we used it. I didn't really fully understand what we were doing, much as I'm sure you don't fully understand what I'm talking about yet. We used it in 2014, and the results were extraordinary. I was shocked. This researcher, I just trusted him. I just turned over the plan to him, and the results were amazing. We saw a nearly 20% shift in Hispanic voting in a matter of weeks, based on some just really extraordinary messages that were, in some cases, counterintuitive. But it was the way we were able to target them to the right Hispanics, to the Hispanics who would listen, and figuring out who those were. That's the secret. Anyway, we did that. And then in 2015, I debated whether to make this a permanent thing. I worked with some other organizations to try and help them understand this. But in 2016, the researcher, Adam Schaefer, and myself decided to start Valor America. And we did. And we created what I would say is the most amazing political effort in the country right now. It's small. We're not well known. Though we're becoming better known, we're not that well known yet. So when I say the most amazing, you'd say, well, how come I haven't heard of you? And you're not giant. And how come you're not spending $50 million? You're not the NRA. You're not the National Republican Senatorial Committee or the Republican National Committee or any big organization. And it's true. But that's where we're at. We're at this stage of building, and we've had 3 races, 2014, 2016, and 2018, where we've done some really incredible stuff, some very effective things that have worked, and we'd like to ask you to help us do more. So let me just say a little bit more. We are not a pro-life organization, though a lot of what we do can be with the pro-life message. It often is. Not because we want to do pro-life messages, though I do. I very much believe in that, but it's because they work. They work very, very well. To do what? What is it we're doing? We're talking to Democrats. We're talking to people who don't think they agree with us. And we're talking to them in ways that surprise them and convince them they do agree with us. That's what this is all about. That's what Valor America does. We do it by using a kind of research, a kind of experimentation that no one else on the right, that sounds incredible, but it's true. No Republican organization has yet reverse engineered these practices that the Democrats use widely. If I was speaking to Democratic donors, Democratic activists, people with PhDs who run political campaigns across the country, they'd all understand. They'd know what I'm talking about. They'd say, oh, you mean what the Analyst Institute does? And I'd say, yes. They'd say, oh, you mean that work that the AFL-CIO researched and invented in 2005? And I'd say, yes. So we've reverse engineered this, and that's what Valor America is. And what Valor America is able to do, this almost sounds incredible, but this is what we can do. We can go into any election, a Senate election, presidential election, congressional elections, theoretically state legislatures, although we really haven't done much there. We can go into small elections, and we can figure out where the people are on the other side who might listen, who might be persuadable. We can come up with a target list of what will end up being 10% of the electorate generally, and we can then talk to them, just that right 10%, not 11, not 11.5. We're going to talk to just that 10% or whatever the number is. And we're not going to talk to the other people that might get agitated by our bold messages, but we're going to talk to that small piece that is persuadable. And some of them will be persuaded. Not all of them, but enough of them will be persuaded that in every election, we see statistically an increase in the Republicans' vote, as long as we do the full program, of more than 1.5%. Now you say 1.5, that doesn't sound like very much. Sure it is. Sure it is. If I can shift 1.5% from the bad guy to the good guy, that's a 3% shift. Well, think about that. Instead of a 51-49 loss, that becomes a 50.5, 49.5 win. In a close election, it's all the difference. In the last 20 years, there have been 34 U.S. Senate races closer than that. Now, in some cases, we can do more. It's amazing how, in some cases, it's hard to say why it works better sometimes. There are reasons. We have pretty good understanding, but to some extent, it's just the right circumstances that we can't control come together. And in those cases, it can be 5%. In Texas, like I said, it was 18% that we shifted. Now, that was only among Hispanics, but Hispanics are a third of the Democratic electorate in Texas, so it made a big difference. I want your help to do this. We are spending less than $1 million a year right now. This year, we will cross, 2019, we will be spending a lot more than we would normally spend the year before an election, although it won't be $1 million. But next year, if we lay things up, if we do the research correctly this year, we'll be in position to carry on a $10 to $15 million campaign next year. I need your help to get there. And maybe you can only give $10 or $100 or $1,000. Obviously, we need many, many people to get to $10 million. I think we're on track right now for several million. But with your help and with other folks that we stumble onto in these months ahead, we can get there. If you haven't seen the endorsement that Newt Gingrich gave us, read it. It's not a form letter written by a member of his staff. He wrote it himself with me. Interestingly, on the day that Brett Kavanaugh was defending his life before that silly lady, Christine Blasey Ford, that was the day Newt and I exchanged notes, and he crafted this endorsement you've seen. If you're a devout Catholic, maybe you've seen the note that Janet Smith wrote, or the endorsement we got from Kevin Roberts, the former president of Wyoming Catholic College. I wish we had 50 of these kind of endorsements. We don't, but I think the Newt one says the most. It says that this is a new weapon that we can bring to the field, and that we rarely get such a chance. Janet Smith puts it this way. She says, there's something really satisfying about being involved in the founding of a company, founding of an enterprise. Well, that's where this is. We're not on day one. We're on more like day 1,000, but it's still early. There's lots to do. We need your help. Thank you. I'm Joe Arlinghaus. Call me. Feel free to. My cell phone is on most of our communications, or rather our office phone that forwards to my cell phone. You can call 713-532-2943. I answer that. No one else answers it. We have a small staff. We're very frugal. We mostly are staffed up only at election time. A lot of what we do requires just a handful of people this time of year. We have a giant army of volunteers. We're so lucky to people that believe in this, that do a bunch of little tasks for free as we grow here. But anyway, we're doing great stuff. A giant percentage of our donations will go to ads, not to paying the electric bill, not to an expensive DC office. When you see me standing on a hillside in Colorado, that's because I live in Colorado. We have an office in Houston, and we have staff around the country, but we're frugal and we do something extraordinary, and we hope you're a part of it. And it will change the Republican Party. It will show truth to people that will make the Republican Party more like you and me, meaning more faith-filled, more patriotic, more in love with life, and that's a great Republican Party. It's a weird time where the man who has brought us here could not be a stranger standard bearer, Donald Trump. And yet, thanks to Donald Trump, this party is fighting in ways that I didn't imagine, that John McCain wouldn't have, that Mitt Romney wouldn't have, that I don't think George W. Bush did. And I think we have chances to win back our nation in many ways. But we need your help to do this. I hope you'll also help the party. I hope you'll also help candidates. But if you got one super PAC that you want to make the biggest bang for your buck, this research we do helps us be more efficient. We like to say this: bigger bang, fewer bucks. So thank you so much. Again, Joe Arlinghaus, Valor America. Have a good day.